Hi everyone, I'm today's presenter Zheng. The topic of today's presentation is literature review based on the topic of interpretable data-driven modeling to quantify the effect of social influence in decision making. First, let me introduce some background. Decision making involves process of making choices through decision identification, information gathering, and alternative evaluations. It also refers to a dynamic process which begins from evidence accumulation to belief adjustment. As individuals often make decisions in the social environment, social influence has been demonstrated to have a significant impact on people's decision making in many domains, such as online purchasing, political voting, and voluntary vaccination. Therefore, the benefit of this research topic goes beyond simply academic achievement. Its innovation and exploratory research results have the potential to support population-level decision-making and policy development in many fields such as healthcare and investment, etc. This presentation will review three themes in turn, which are decision-making, social influence, and the effect of social influence in decision-making. And then I will summarize and state some exploratory research questions. Decision is a choice made from available alternatives. Decision-making process is defined as a set of action and dynamic factors that begins with the identification of a stimulus for actions and ends with a specific commitment to action. It can be categorized in different ways. For example, according to the degree of repetition on decision-making, it could be categorized as programmed and non-programmed decisions. And in terms of number of people making the decision, it can also be divided into individual and group decisions. Early research approaches of decision-making can be mainly broken into two branches. One is normative decision theory, which analyzes the results of decision or determines the optimal decision given constraints and assumptions. Rational choice theory is one of the most representative theory of this branch. This theory originated from economic models. It mainly shows that individuals will eventually make decisions that meet their expectations and goals based on rational calculations. The basic assumption of rational choice theory is that individuals are rational, but it is impossible for individuals always be rational. So another representative theory has been developed is the expected utility theory. This theory states that decision makers will maximize their expected utility values when making decisions. Another branch of decision-making theory that contrasts with normative decision theory is descriptive decision theory, which analyzes how decision makers actually make the decisions. The typical theory could be prospective theory. It explains how individuals make decisions when facing risks and uncertainties in the real world. It aims to describe the actual behavior of decision makers. Several studies found that the decision maker also has many research findings in psychology and neuroscience. For example, Simon pointed out that decision-making process is a reasoning process based on the value, preference, and belief of decision makers, in which personal beliefs plays an important role in the whole process. Kearney and Shetland found in the study of rhesus monkey give to alternative forced choice tasks. Neurons in the parietal cortex not only represent the formation of decisions, but also emit the degree of confidence related to the decision. In recent years, as the research on decision-making has become deeper, the research based on the simplest one criteria is no longer enough. Then the discipline of multiple criteria decision analysis has emerged. It evaluates multiple conflicting criteria in decision-making process. Research on MCDA began in 1960s and become active research field since 1970s. The application research on this topic reached many fields like natural resource management, investment, and healthcare, etc. The initial focus of this research topic was mainly on developing methods and did not give much attention to methodology or process. However, in the late 1980s, more attention has been paid to the development of framework methodologies and theory. For example, Belton and Stewart provide a comprehensive MCDA process from problem structuring to resolution, which is showed below. Since more and more methods emerged in the development of MCDA as a discipline, here showed on the left corner is a table of some common used methods and their main characteristics. For example, weighted sum method, which is developed by that. It is a common approach for single dimension problem, and its basic assumption is additive utility. With the society developed fast and fast, and the problem has become more and more complex. It is common for researchers to combine different methods to analyze complex problem in the real world. For example, Quaternary and Mavrakis utilize the analysis hierarchy process to define standard coefficients and use a combination of multi-attribute utility theory and the simple multi-attribute rating techniques process to assign grades to instruments in order to evaluate climate change mitigation policy instruments. In addition, MCDA methods can also be combined with qualitative and quantitative method. This is no accurate model to perfectly analyzing decision-making, as the decision-making process is full of uncertainty. Uncertainty is defined as the feeling of not being sure what will happen in the future. Study of uncertainty in decision-making have been developed in different ways, such as investment, healthcare, energy management problem, and climate change, etc. Many researchers have expanded different aspects of sources of uncertainty. For example, Simon proposed bounded rationality from a psychological point of view. He pointed out that people's rationality is limited by some natural factors, such as people's intelligence and their time. Then the limitation of rationality will lead to the increase of uncertainty in decision-making process. Besides, the uncertainty of information and data will also affect the decision-making. For example, some necessary information may not be able to be collected within the limited time, or even some redundant information or data will increase the uncertainty of decision-making. A widely used method for expressing uncertainty in decision-making is the discipline of bias problem theory. An alternative method is to use belief function. Probability theory and evidence theory, also known as Dunbar-Shaft theory, are two typical theories. So they are used to provide a mathematical framework to represent uncertainty. Another theme of this research topic is social influence. Social influence refers to the way in which individuals change their ideas and actions to meet the demands of social group. There are many ways to classify social influence. For example, Deutsch and Gerard introduced normative and informational social influence. Normative social influence is an influence that meets the positive expectation of others. Informational social influence is a kind of influence that accepts other people's information as actual evidence. It can also be categorized into direct social influence and indirect social influence. Direct social influence is a result of one person directly influencing the views of another person through coercion or persuasion. Indirect social influence is more like a psychological process that occurs when people's opinions and behaviors are affected by others. Looking back at the research process of social influence, since the mid-1980s, social influence began to play a major role in social psychology. There are various types of social influence being studied in this direction. Kerman pointed out that the three processes of attitude change under social influence are compliance, identification, and internalization. Compliance is the act of actively responding to the request made by others. Identification is a change in attitude or behavior due to the influence of someone who is admired. Internalization is the process of accepting a set of norms established by the group or an influential person. Another type is reactance, which introduced by Brigham. It is the act of accept the opposite view that they are forced to accept. It can also be called anti-conformity. Obedience refers to a kind of social influence under authority figures. For example, the Milgram experiment and the Hovling Hospital experiment are all well-known obedience experiments. Then is the review of social influence in decision-making. Research on the impact of social influence on decision-making has been going on for a long time. People believe that decision under social influence can help them improve their original thinking. Social influence has been proven that can influence different types of decisions, such as consumer decision, economic decision, house demand decision, and tourism decision, and so on. For example, Wood and Hayes shows that social groups and related partners will influence individuals' attitude towards products or brands and further affect their decision. During the analysis, due to the difficulty to control the social influence factor in an experimental environment, researchers then have adopted a lot of qualitative and quantitative methods in the research on the impact of the social influence in decision-making. The qualitative method is usually to answer questions about experience, meaning, and opinions from the perspective of participants. Examples of qualitative research techniques involve one-on-one interviews, focus groups, textual or visual analysis, and observations, and so on. Qualitative research method can help to gain the deep understanding of reasons and motivations of decision through a series of techniques. However, the central issue of qualitative research could be confidence, can also be called credibility, and also participant reactivity, which means people usually show different behavior when they know they are being observed. Besides, qualitative methods might also be easily criticized in terms of personal subjectivity. On the other way, quantitative methods attach the importance to objective measurement and mathematical, statistical, or numerical analysis with data collected by public service and questionnaires, or processing existing statistical data by using computational techniques. The main point of quantitative research method is to obtain statistical output through analyzing numerical data and try to use them to explain the question. One example is Zheng and Eisenberg proved quantitative methods can help improving the physician's clinic judgment, and then found that actual clinic decision is affected by the interaction of patients, doctors, and social factors. Quantitative methods are faster and more convenient to execute. They can test a specific hypothesis, and its statistical nature can easily be generalized. But its limitation is that it's too general and not detailed enough. It's not going into deeper inside of the decision. And the preset answer in the survey and questionnaire may also affect a person's choice, so that they cannot reflect the true result and then influence the accuracy of the model. Then that's all for the review of these three things. According to the detailed reviews we have done of the three topics, we have cognized the limitations of current research. The following question are worth discussing. So first, how to better combine different theories to represent uncertainty in decision-making so that the uncertainty of the model can be reduced. The second is how to combine qualitative and quantitative research methods to better modeling this topic. And finally, how to include more information while maintaining the simplicity of the model so that it can be applied to more scenarios. Okay, so the limitations showed of previous research on quantifying social impact in decision-making are the accuracy of the model, For example, with the emergence of information age, a larger, richer, and more complex networking data and high-dimensional data has become available in the context of social community and environment. Therefore, the model needs to cover a great amount of sample features. As Sterling and Termolini states that the application of conditional game theory, bias network theory, and Markov convergence theory could provide a framework within which to formalize a theory of coordinated decision-making under social influence. However, as there is a large amount of networking data and high-dimensional data to be analyzed in this research project, the primary research method should be experimental design with a combination of different methods in order to get an integrated model and also try to increase accuracy. For the contribution, the model-based high-dimensional bias inference can simulate the individual's decision-making process with social influence on the uncertainty. It can find a good balance between model complexity and model accuracy, and could be used to make prediction through further applications. The potential impact and benefit of this project is not only kind of like academic achievement. Exploratory research results can be used widely, like in business research, healthcare, and even government policy. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions and any comments, please feel free to contact me. My email address is showed on the PowerPoint below. Thank you. Bye.